Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Thursday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We get started, of course, in Miami, where the leading Republican presidential contenders took part in a third primary debate, which you saw right here on NBC News Now.
Once again, the frontrunner in the GOP field, former President Trump, opted not to take part. Instead, he hosted a rally just outside of Miami. The pressure was on for the five candidates who are trying to win over Republican voters on a night that was dominated by foreign policy topics like Israel, China, and Ukraine, along with questions about the man who was not in the room. Here are a few of the highlights.
We need leadership, and we need it now. I'll take the hits, I'll take the arrows, I'll take the slings, because ultimately it's not about me. It's about you.
You know, everybody wants to talk about President Trump. Well, I can talk about President Trump. I can tell you that I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now.
I'll say this about Donald Trump. Anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country, and it needs to be said plainly.
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It's a cancer in the Republican establishment.
I would be the president that helps us restore faith in God, faith in each other, and faith in our future. Without that focus, none of the issues, the policies, matter.
You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
First, like to say they're 5-inch heels, and I don't wear them unless you can run in them.
All right, let's dive deeper into the debate. NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett is in Miami. Senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us, too. Good morning to both of you. So, Maura, let's start with you. Which topics did get the most airtime, and how did the candidates try to separate themselves from each other?
Well, separating themselves was a key mission of the night and an effort to get any sort of leg up on former President Trump. The candidates sharpening their attacks on the Republican frontrunner. DeSantis, for example, putting blame on Trump for what he called Republican losses on election night earlier this week. It was also a debate heavy on foreign policy and an opportunity for candidates to differentiate on their positions around abortion, which was obviously something we were looking to see talked about after those Republican losses on Tuesday. I want you to hear about how some of those conversations played out on stage.
We're better off when we can promote a culture of life. At the same time, I understand that some of these states are doing it a little bit different.
As much as I'm pro-life, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice, and I don't want them to judge me for being pro-life. So when we're looking at this, there are some states that are going more on the pro-life side. I welcome that.
It was my home state of Ohio. I'm upset about this yesterday. That passed a constitutional amendment that now effectively codifies a right to abortion all the way up to the time of birth without parental consent. Why? It's back to that Republican culture of losing.
Now, the topic of abortion is going to be one that the party as a whole is going to have to come to terms with, figure out where they're going to line up to attract voters as the primary season continues. But overall, this debate provided an opportunity, especially compared to those last debates, for candidates to really have time to lay out their stances, have some substantive conversations. And while there were some fireworks, there was less opportunity for those direct attacks and arguments on stage, guys.
John, let's bring you in here. As expected, the war between Israel and Hamas was a big topic of the night, and there was more agreement among the candidates here. What can you tell us?
Savannah, good morning. There was significant agreement from the candidates on Israel's desire and ability, and their desire and ability for Israel to be able to defend itself. There is, of course, some variation there among the candidates in terms of what the U.S. role should be, but largely what you heard from these candidates was that Israel should be empowered by the United States, or certainly supported by the United States in its efforts to eliminate Hamas.
Maura, our eyes are often drawn to the fireworks. There was one particular moment between two of the candidates getting a lot of attention, came out of a discussion about TikTok. Break it down for us. What happened there?
Well, guys, prior to the debate, we had heard from Ramaswamy's team that he was going to be unconstrained on stage, and that's exactly what we saw. A lot of his focus falling on Nikki Haley, and that's where we saw this bit of altercation kind of play out on stage. He brought up a criticism that Haley had brought up on the stage last time, talking about criticizing him for using TikTok despite its ties to China. I want you to hear how that played out after that.
Mr. Ramaswamy, We've talked about this. You campaign on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which was about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Your adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy answer.
You can just hear the frustration from Haley calling him scum on stage there. And Haley, after the debate, telling our team at NBC that she is a mom. She is always going to protect her family. But ultimately, she does have serious personal differences with Vivek Ramaswamy. And let's face it, he really had to make some splashes, waves on stage to really stand out, attempt to get those spikes in polling after the debate, those donor spikes as well. And that's the case for him, Chris Christie, and Tim Scott if they're going to want to make the debate stage next month, guys.
And John, we know the former president was not physically in the room, though he was discussed quite a bit on the stage. But tell us, Trump did hold this counter-programming event not far from Miami. Quickly tell us about that.
Yes, Savannah, he did that in Hialeah, not so far away, an area with a significant Latino population. Trump is very happy with what he believes is some momentum for him among Latino voters. Look, he's in a place here where he's still dominating the field. He, looms over any of these debates, third straight debate that he has skipped. And until it appears that until one of these other candidates really threatens him, he's going to leave the debate alone and let them fight it out for second place.
All right. John and Maura, thank you both for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it.
And now let's get to the latest in the $250 million civil fraud trial against Donald Trump, his sons, and their family business. Trump's eldest daughter, Ivanka, testified yesterday, saying she was not involved in her father's financial statements, which are at the heart of Attorney General Letitia James' case.
Ivanka was the fourth member of the Trump family to testify in the case after two of her brothers and, of course, her father. She was originally a co-defendant but was dismissed from the case earlier this year.
For more, we're joined by MSNBC anchor Lindsay Reiser. She is here on set where it is warm, not the courthouse. We're happy to have you with us. So the prosecution wrapped up its examination of Ivanka. Now it's the defense's turn. What were your big takeaways from what we saw yesterday?
Stylistically, she was totally different from her father, who we saw on Monday. I mean, the atmosphere in that courtroom was tense on Monday. It was much more relaxed yesterday, and she was much more polite, dare I say cooperative. I mean, she kept saying, I don't recall. We'll get to that in a second. But just stylistically, she wasn't as pugilistic as her father. And, of course, the Attorney General, after court, said she may have been very polite, but the facts don't lie. And when it comes to I don't recall, these were communications that she had with Deutsche Bank, the Trump organization's largest lender. She spearheaded some of the projects like the old post office in Washington, D.C. The Attorney General's office says she profited off of that deal that was based on fraudulent statements. They say she made about $4 million from the sale, and she testified to that. But she tried to distance herself from the organization, saying she stepped down from her role as executive vice president in 2017, became a senior advisor to her father in the White House. When she was done, she raised her arms and she smiled. We don't expect to hear from her again because, again, they're trying to prevent her from having to travel away from her family.
You've been at the courthouse since the beginning, so you can measure the mood better than anyone. You say the atmosphere different with Ivanka's testimony compared with her father's. How is Team Trump reacting to her testimony?
Well, he was very protective ahead of his adult children's testimony, saying, leave my children alone. Last night in Florida, he had said, even that stupid trial going on in New York, which has been totally discredited, everybody's been discredited. This all comes out of the White House. So he's been decrying election interference. He has slammed Attorney General Letitia James, saying that she is just doing this for political gain. She's using this to fundraise, that she ran on this and ran for governor on this. Also attacking the judge. He's not allowed anymore to attack the principal law clerk because of that partial gag order. The judge, very protective of his staff, saying you can't mention her, you can't post anything about her. But that doesn't refer to the judge himself. So Trump has been attacking the judge as well.
So Ivanka was the prosecution's last witness. Now we're going to start hearing from the defense. Tell us what we're looking for.
So today we're going to hear some housekeeping items on some motions. We're not expected to hear from any witnesses today. The Attorney General's office filed a motion to get 4 defense witnesses dismissed from the case, from their part of the case, essentially saying that they're either rebuttal witnesses to witnesses they didn't call, or it would be irrelevant at this point or redundant. We're also going to likely hear from from the defense a directed verdict motion, basically to throw the case out because of a lack of evidence. And then the defense expects that they will begin their case in chief on Monday. They expect to go until December 15th. The judge wants all this wrapped up by December 22nd. We will likely hear from Eric, Don Jr., and the former president again as direct witnesses. With cross, they can really only talk about things that were presented by the AG's case. And remember, this is the AG's case they're bringing, so they were technically hostile witnesses. And we can likely hear some of the same defenses that we have already heard. For example, these statements of financial condition are meaningless to the banks. The banks wanted to work with us. They were making money. Nobody missed out on their money. We were relying on accountants for this information. And also, they didn't include the most valuable part of the asset, and that is the brand. And so we can certainly hear from some fact witnesses, expert witnesses on that as well.
All right, Lindsay Reiser, thank you so much. Good to have you here.
On Capitol Hill, the House Oversight Committee has issued subpoenas for Hunter Biden and the president's brother, James. It is the latest move by Republicans in their impeachment inquiry against the president. Oversight Committee Chair James Comer has accused the Biden family of engaging in, quote, shady business practices.
The White House quickly fired back, calling the investigation a, quote, wild goose chase, and that Republicans are abusing their power to conduct a smear campaign against the president in the run up to next year's election.
For more, we're joined by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Cirkin. Julie, good morning. So Committee Chair Comer also issued a subpoena for Hunter Biden's former business partner, Rob Walker. These are subpoenas for depositions. So will these depositions be made public? And what is the Republican-led committee looking to find out here?
Yeah, that's exactly the goal. And look, this is a pretty dramatic escalation of the Republican impeachment inquiry. They've been investigating certainly Hunter Biden, his business dealings, now whether any of those business dealings connect back to his father, whether President Biden benefited from his son's foreign business dealings, in specific with other countries. And this is a step the committee was foreshadowing for quite some time now. Even Speaker Mike Johnson a couple of days ago saying that perhaps these depositions were long overdue. Now, on the docket in the next couple of weeks, we're set to hear potentially, if he complies, with Rob Walker at the end of November. Then we will potentially hear, if they comply with these subpoenas, from Hunter Biden and President Biden's brother sometime in December. Those dates have been made firm by the panel. For Hunter Biden's part, though, his lawyer suggesting that he's open potentially to appearing before the committee in public at some point, saying, quote, he's eager to have the opportunity in a public forum and at the right time to discuss these matters with the committee.
Julie, House Republicans still have yet to show, concrete evidence of this. We've been looking for that, or influenced by President Biden himself. What was the response of Hunter Biden's legal team to these subpoenas?
Well, that's exactly right. And look, the committee really is trying to connect the dots here when it comes to these subpoenas and this investigation of the president. This is actually the second step that they have taken. The first foundation they have laid out was those bank records that they subpoenaed last month and they received. The committee says, led by Chairman James Comer, of course, Republicans leading this, Democrats having a different view, that those bank records have led them to escalate their inquiry and now subpoena those individuals, including requiring written testimony from a whole slew of other family members. And this is the first time that family members have really been directly subpoenaed by the committee. They say these bank records potentially show 20 shell companies with all different kinds of cash disbursements that could potentially tie back to the president. Again, though, you're right. There's been no evidence showing that. And this president's son's attorney's team says as much. Even before the subpoenas were sent, they warned the speaker, for example, against proceeding to this step, saying that there has been no evidence, calling this a political stunt, too.
As you just said, Democrats have a different view. How are Democrats on Capitol Hill reacting to this?
Well, I talked to the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, Jamie Raskin. He's reacting as you would expect him to. I mean, this is somebody who led impeachment proceedings against the former President Trump. So he certainly knows a thing or two. He told me that Republicans are depraving the word impeachment. They are taking away the gravity that this step requires and deserves, calling this all but a political sham. Here's what he told me.
I don't think they've added anything to the credibility of their investigation. It has been an epic flop from the beginning, and the most humiliating moment, of course, was their big hearing where their own witnesses turned against them and said no, they couldn't see any evidence of a crime and they didn't see any evidence of an impeachable offense. So instead of listening to their own witnesses, they decide to drop hearings, but now they're just going to do depositions of members of the Biden family.
Raskin was sort of laughing there in the beginning because he kept saying that this is just an unserious moment for the panel. And remember, Raskin has been a part of these hearings, including that impeachment inquiry hearing at the end of September, in which the Republicans' own witnesses said it's not enough evidence to move to that step yet of linking anything to the current president, Joe Biden. But of course, this is not happening in a vacuum. The committee's work will continue while David Weiss, the special counsel in Hunter Biden's case, will push on with potential tax charges in the next few months.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, the International Rescue Committee, a humanitarian aid organization, says at least 5 days of ceasefire is the absolute minimum amount of time agencies in Gaza need to effectively deliver aid and supplies to the region. It comes as calls for a temporary pause grow more intense as the bombing of northern Gaza continues.
Thousands of people are now headed south as water, food, and health supplies run out. Israeli troops continue to close in on Gaza City, where they believe Hamas leaders have set up headquarters. The fighting has been relentless, and this morning the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights is condemning both Israel and Hamas.
The atrocities perpetrated by Palestinian armed groups on the 7th of October were heinous. They were war crimes, as is the continued holding of hostages. The collective punishment by Israel of Palestinian civilians is also a war crime, as is unlawful, forcible evacuation of civilians.
NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us from Tel Aviv with the details here. Hey, Jay, good morning. So the United Nations says an estimated 50,000 people fled northern Gaza yesterday. They're now making their way south, but bombings have not stopped there either, as we've seen. Walk us through what this journey is like for those fleeing. How you even get down there, especially knowing that fuel, things like that are limited now. What are conditions like also where they're headed to the south? Are they any safer there?
Yeah, and Savannah, walking it is exactly what tens of thousands are doing right now, many with makeshift white flags or with their hands held up to show that they are not armed and to let Israeli soldiers know they are trying to get to an area where they feel like they will be safer. They've been going through some humanitarian corridors set up by the IDF. And you're right, when they get there, they have no idea where they are going to stay. They have no indication of how they are going to get any food, water, though they will be closer to aid that does at times make it through the Rafah border crossing. But understand this, they are leaving, most of them, with only the things they can carry, leaving their life's possessions and work behind with no clear indication of when or if they may be allowed to go back home.
Jay, we also know that the Rafah border crossing was closed yesterday due to security concerns. So this is that border where aid is able to enter the Gaza Strip. It's also where certain people with approval or specific injured people are able to cross to get help. Are there any updates there about that border crossing?
Yeah, and thankfully some movement along the Rafah border crossing. 106 trucks have been through today with food, water, medicine, medical supplies. So that's good news. 7 ambulances as well moving in today to transport some of the most severely injured to a field hospital just across the border with Egypt, where they can get the surgery that they desperately need. To this point today, there's been no indication that any of the foreign nationals or dual citizenship families that have gathered there, thousands, will be allowed to cross today. So no movement with people leaving Gaza.
Jay, officials say a proposal's on the table for a 3-day pause in fighting. That would be in exchange for the release of about a dozen hostages. So what more do we know about those negotiations? And has Israel indicated it would be willing to temporarily stop their attacks on Gaza for some, but not all hostages?
Yeah, it's interesting. We get the same line that we've really had throughout this entire process, is that negotiations are ongoing with Qatari serving as intermediaries in these talks. But Israel has made it very clear that they are not going to have any pause, any ceasefire of substance until all of the hostages are released. Now, what we have seen is some of those humanitarian corridors open up for a few hours, which is allowing people to move to the south, move to areas that are deemed safer. But as we talked about earlier, there are still airstrikes going on in the south as well. And so getting around in Gaza right now is a very tenuous, very difficult and dangerous process.
Finally, Jay, I do want to ask you one thing that we also saw. The Pentagon says that it launched an airstrike on a weapons facility in Syria. Well, the Defense Department says that the facility was being used by Iran's Revolutionary Guard and affiliated groups. Earlier this week, U.S. officials had started to make these efforts to have direct talks with Iran, saying the U.S. is not looking to spread the conflict in the Middle East. But is there any hope of de-escalation or progress with Iran at all?
Boy, it doesn't seem that way at this point, especially with those strikes yesterday, 2 U.S. F-15 striking what was a weapons facility in eastern Syria and taking that facility out. They say that it was, and I'm quoting here, a self-defense strike responding to a series of strikes against U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. So, no, it looks like at this point there is still a lot of tension and a lot of movement there as well.
All right, Jay Gray, thank you very much.
Big news this morning. Actors expected to get back to work soon after SAG-AFTRA and the Hollywood studios reached a tentative agreement last night.
That's right. The deal would end a near 4-month strike. Comes after weeks of negotiations that at some points included some of the top executives in Hollywood. SAG-AFTRA says the deal is now set to go to the union's national board tomorrow for review and consideration.
Entertainment journalist, pop culture expert Brian Balthazar joins us now with more on this. Let's talk about this tentative deal with studios, which we should say includes our parent company, That's NBC right. Universal. Right. We know actors wanted better pay, they wanted better protections and safeguards when it comes to AI. What are they getting?
Okay, so we'll know the full details tomorrow. What we do know is they got about a 7% increase in base wage increases, and that's actually 2% more than the directors and the writers got. The AI thing, we're waiting to find out a little bit more about that, but this was a sticking point. What's so interesting about this, we think about background actors and that's how they're going to use it. It's so much more than that. It's involving actually the higher paid actors they were sticking on, is using some, like imagine Matt Damon can't come for a reshoot, so they use his voice via AI or his face via AI to do a scene where they could have had him do another shoot day or something like that. So that's one of them. And also an issue was the use of deceased actors. If they already have a scan, can they then use a deceased actor's likeness or voice in a subsequent film without the permission of their estate? So this is really what AI is eventually and probably already is capable of, and those were some of the sticking points. Obviously, we had they had a great increase in pension and retirement benefits. They're valuing it at about $1 billion overall, the increases.
I can't wait to see these details, especially since it got to the point of the big companies saying this is last, best, final, and then there was still more conversation. So what went down here? So, Brian, what does this mean for somebody at home? I mean, now that there's a possible agreement, is it going to change what we start to see on TV? What goes right back into production? What's this timeline?
Well, you know, the New York Marathon, imagine that without a staggered start, right? Okay, the thing is now all of these people are calling their production houses, all their makeup talent, because they all want to get started now. In fact, I guarantee you at 12:01 this morning, when the strike was lifted, people were already calling the studio saying, when can we get in? Because now it's a race to get your project that was already in progress going. We'll see that films like Dune that's already done in the can, we're going to see them start promoting it and releasing it right away because we had a dismal weekend last weekend without it. We'll see the awards circuit going. We're going to see actors promoting their films that did run this year for awards. They're really trying to salvage the summer movie season, though, because those are the ones that they have just enough time, but not a lot of time to get some of those movies in and done. But everything's just going to gear up. We're going to really see for ourselves how crazy this gets and how fast they can get things on.
We should tell you, we're scanning you right now, by the way.
Right, exactly. I look like a Christmas gift, but I am actually a person.
You look great.
Doing, I love it.
Thank you. This has taken a huge financial toll on actors and writers and so many other people. This is a domino effect. Is there anything being done to help with financial recovery for those folks?
Well, as you remember, the late night hosts had a fund that they were doing by having a podcast that raised money for those. The SAG-AFTRA had a fund that was helping some of these actors. So some of the biggest performing actors like George Clooney, Julia Roberts, I believe Meryl Streep, all donated money to this same fund. But really, these were people that were really tapping out. You know, it was getting really rough, but also the studios were getting really scared too. Now it's a time of recovery and really a flood of work coming their way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.